Can you hear him? Can you hear the voice of the shepherd? Can you hear his call to eternity? Can you hear him, scattered flock? Listen. Beyond the noise of chit-chat, beyond the noise of iPods and radios, beyond the noise of engines and horns, the shepherd is calling. Can you hear him? Do you recognize his voice? His sheep know his voice. Can you hear his voice? Calling from a distant land around the world, the voice of a child, malnourished and hungry. The king who once put on human flesh, now hidden in frail, naked bodies with starved, bloated stomachs. Can you hear his voice? Calling from a distant land across the street, the voice of a man begging for change, the hands that formed the depths of the earth, now hidden in cracked, dirty hands that hold a beggar's cup. Can you hear him? Can you hear the shepherd's voice? He is calling for you. He is seeking his sheep. He is seeking us out, but we are scattered. We've wandered off into clouds of darkness, blinded by green human clouds with presidential faces, blinded by darkness that blows off of flat screens and high resolution. And we fall into crevices of to-do lists and consumer debts and the desires for power. So the shepherd calls out our name, but we can't hear his voice because our hearts are hard. We long to touch the hem of his garments, but his garment is disguised as an orange jumpsuit, as a hospital gown, as a soiled overcoat, as the unused sweater stuffed in our dresser, but longing to embrace the shivering stranger. But we can't find the hem of his garment, because we think it is hidden on Mercy's rack or a Parisian runway. We look in the wrong places, because our hearts are hard. We long for the comfort of his rod and staff, but his rod and staff are disguised as an empty cup, as ivy needles plunged into skin, as a cardboard sign, and a grocery cart filled with things that we dare not touch. But we can't find his rod and staff, because we think they are hidden in a 41k or a better credit score. We look in the wrong places, because our hearts are hard. We long to hear his voice, and he calls out to us. The shepherd's voice rings out of dark prison cells, out from lonely hospital beds, out of kitchens lined with empty cupboards and filled with hungry families. But we can't hear his voice, because we think his voice is calling from a corner office or in friends' flattery. We listen to the wrong voices because our hearts are hard. Our hearts are hard, and with every rationalization and selfish decision, our frozen hearts get even colder until we are blind and deaf to the shepherd's search and call. So we don't see the shepherd when we walk by the lonely homeless man begging for change. We don't hear the shepherd in the silent cries of the poor woman with no other income than her own body. The shepherd calls out, cries out, shouts out for our attention in the voice of every least of these. And we miss out because our hearts are hard. Frozen hard. Stone cold hard. Frozen solid. But the shepherd calls from one more place. The shepherd calls from a loaf of bread and cup of wine set on a table prepared for us in the presence of our enemies, in the presence of our hard hearts. We eat this bread, and our frozen hearts begin to melt away in the warmth of his own body. We drink this cup, and our thawed out hearts begin to beat and pump the shepherd's own blood. And slowly, Our eyes open, our ears unplug, and we hear and see the shepherd in all who hunger and thirst and shiver. We see that the least of these are brothers and sisters. And finally, we hear the shepherd's call, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father." And we are led back to still waters, back to the shepherd's house, where we will dwell forever.